with this time around than they just did in the previous game we watched. But at the same time, Fnatic, they also know exactly what Misfits want to do with this composition. They lost to it already, and now it's on them to play around with it differently. The Ryze priority from Nisqy, he used that to almost perfection in the previous game, and the pressure is on him to influence the side lanes again, to have something to play around.
Well, I actually think the pressure's on Misfits to deal with that pressure. We know for a fact it's going to come. We know that Fnatic are going to dive towers, are going to press their advantages the moment a lane has been shoved in. Fnatic leave that lane to go gank and support the rest of their teammates. Misfits were unable to weather the storm in game number 3, and it started from an early jungle invade. Razort was pushed out of the game, and that ultimately meant Fnatic pushed Misfits over. For Misfits Gaming, this is potentially the final Rift, the final game of 2021. Can they hold off Fnatic? Of course, they've shown that they can. They have shown they have the potential to do so. And for Misfits, can they show us that we can make it to Game 5? Welcome back to Summoner's Rift. As we can already see Fnatic grouping themselves up on the bottom lane and pushing towards the river. Upset has rocket jumped over. I think he was spotted, and there have been some pings there from Misfits members. Do they opt into this fight? That is the question. Vander will be supported by Vetheo. 2 more members can make their way forward. Command attack goes out. That's the route already. Hylissang going low. 180 HP left. The rest of Fnatic make their way up. This is a potential 4v4 as Hirit is inside the river. This time around, nobody goes down. No further shenanigans, but Fnatic trying to get an early lead once again.
Yeah, if you could have delayed that recall, that would have been pivotal as well due to, yeah, Hilly having to lane with half HP. But Fnatic trying to be creative with it, jumping over, trying to get a little cheesy invade going down. But Misfits, they see it and they're ready for it. So nothing lost really outside of 1 HP pot from Vander. And we're just back to a standard game where we're taking a look on towards the jungler. Bwipo pathing up towards that top side of the map. And Razort has opted in to path towards the bottom instead.
I want to see the decision-making after that first clear, you know, where both Bwipo and Razort move themselves. In the previous game, we were a little bit surprised by Razort's pathing choices. He ended up being punished for it, and it was kind of the beginning of the snowball. Let's quickly talk about this bottom lane once again. Vander and Kobee, obviously with the Enchanter support, the ranged into Hylissang's Braum, going to have a little bit of an early advantage, especially when you combo the beat drop with the volley. It's so frustrating to play into.
Yeah, we've already seen this lane once, and it's just the fact that Braum doesn't have any way to walk up or actually trade efficiently with a melee because there's only range to play against. So just in turn, super easy to net this priority. And as we're taking a look back towards the jungler where they are right now, it seems like Bwipo is still clearing off towards the bottom side of the map. They get the intel on the wards up towards the Raptors, and they know he's pathing off. He's even spotted by the Hawkshot. So Hirit, pressure is on him to have his lane in a favorable position so he won't get caught off guard with the Reketon stunning him later when Bwipo is finally up there.
As it stands, bottom lane pushing very heavily into Fnatic. They haven't even hit level 2 yet. We'll do so in just a moment. Hirit is shoving forward in the top lane, and of course Vetheo doing the same in the mid lane. He was able to push that wave into Nisqy's tower, then step into the jungle and place that ward. Pretty much, I think, as you would expect here, let's be frank, with the main matchups in the draft that's been put together. But for Hirit, crucial, cannot stick around too long. He was punished by Inspired by Rogue last weekend several times for being overextended during the laning phase.
I mean, yeah, game plan is right now for Hirit just to push this wave in, make it crash, and make a slow push happen back towards you so you won't get caught off guard. And I think we are going to be about to see that, but Adam is actually doing a good job at trying to keep this little freeze up going, but he's sacrificing a lot of HP for it.
He really, really is. Down to 150, needs that Kill the Meek on the minions to pick it up. Razort will get tagged by the Winter's Bite. Concussive blows just about to proc. He's able to ward hop over the wall. Now Vetheo is the next target as Bwipo's coming in the river as well. support for Misfits starting to group, and again, it's just how these teams really want to press their advantages. You can sense their willingness and their desire to fight, Gulborg.
I don't know about you, but there's tension in the air as well, Trevor. It just feels like we're so close every time to get that all-on Braum that we've seen so many times.
And both of these teams committing to that playstyle. For both of these teams, a bit of an interesting position to be in. Of course, Misfits, nobody anticipated the impact they would have this summer. And I think it might be fair to say they've been underestimated a lot. This series in particular, I'm happy to see Kobee and Vander sort of rising to the occasion and being more influential, especially during the laning phase, than they have been in sort of recent weeks.
I mean, it's always lovely to see them finally have the ability to fire back, and also the early vision control just to keep them at good distance, and safety is just up for them. They have the intel on Bwipo right now. It's a slow pushing in towards them, but there's no mid lane priority for Nisqy to try and commit to a dive. So the bot lane, all in all, for Misfits are just in a really good position where finally their plates are not being stolen away from them.
And of course, Vander just being super obnoxious there, interrupting the recall for Bwipo twice. Adam's going to be able to jump forward onto Hirit with that slice and dice. He's going to look for the Ruthless Predator. It's not available just yet. Meek, in fact, comes out now with the Boomerang Blade from Hirit. The moment he's about to Mega Gnar out, Adam starts to back away, and he understands the limits of his damage.
But this is super good for Hirit as well, because Hirit hasn't actually TP'd just yet, so he was at an item disadvantage. Adam, he'll just be forced to back immediately because of that exchange. So Hirit now, he can finally just shove in the big cannon wave that's coming here, and he's going to gain control of the lane once more. So finally, in a vacuum of the 1v1, Hirit is finally getting more breathing room due to him not just being countered by a Camille into Reketon matchup.
And I think you mentioned something a moment ago, talking about like the tension in the air. This game, despite sort of attempts at fights, has slowed down somewhat. The stakes obviously being so high, with Fnatic being on match point and Misfits being on season-ending point. Both teams just pushing to the edge of safety and then backing off. Now for Misfits, I think this is a good thing for them, allowing both the Ashe, the Oriana, to farm up some of those items. Now, all of a sudden, another potential engage. Razort steps all the way forward. Sonic Wave will catch out Bwipo. Smite comes down onto the Scuttle Crab. Razort continues to look for the fight as Vetheo was able to leave the lane first. Now, all of a sudden, Hirit and Adam are trading. That's a big stun onto Hirit. This minion wave is helping out. Nisqy will be backed up by Bwipo in just a moment. They dash forward. Shockwave did not find Nisqy. That means there's not enough damage, and first blood goes to Fnatic. Adam is going to reach out, use the ultimate, the Dominus, to take down Vetheo, and it's 2 kills to Fnatic.
And even Hylissang was up here if his larger extent of a fight broke out. So Fnatic, once again, they're just pulling the trigger, and after the Shockwave missed, such a poor position for them. And now 4 members up towards the top side. They can look for a dive, Trevor.
Hirit needs to Gnar out, but he doesn't have the bar just yet. Level 5 Bwipo stepping forward. The Hallowed Mist comes out, and 3 members of Fnatic continue the chase. Razort arrives in time, and now he's got the ability to turn this one around. The Gnar bar is starting to pack up. That's a kill back for Vetheo. Hylissang's going to be the next target as Nisqy is trying to throw out overload after overload. Hirit will not have the flash available to him, but now all of a sudden upsets join the fray. Razort dashes to a ward to safety. Vander's been able to recall and join up as well. Razort gets himself one. The Enchanted Crystal Arrow flies out right between Adam and Upset. The wallop will not land on Adam, but Vander finds the kill. Misfits find 4.
That is such an overextension, and we might not be done. Oh, Sonic Wave almost connects an Upset. But look at Kobee, Trevor. He was never a part of this. And after the overextension came through from Fnatic, they've gained so much. He's getting so many plates by himself.
This is fantastic for Misfits. Fnatic overchased the kill. They have put themselves in danger, and Misfits were able to punish. So several plates and a lot of farm going to Kobee. Now up in the top lane, Misfits, they're laying in wait. They're setting up a trap here.
And they can do this because there's no one punishing Kobee, so there's no cross map to come through. Adam, you might be walking into a trap, buddy.
He is indeed. Dragon's Rage is available here for Razort. Knocks him into the wall. Beat drop comes out from Vander, and Razort finds another kill. 2, 1, and 2. That minion wave is gigantic, and Kobee will now be the next target. Bwipo and Hylissang looking to run him down. Flash and heal is available. Does he decide to use it? Probably not, because this is just a confirmed kill for Bwipo. Kobee, despite being in that position, Controversial recall, shall we call it?
I think that is a very controversial recall, but at the same time, Adam, once again towards the top side of the map, lost so many minion waves. Look at the deficit between him and Hirit right now, and Hirit's picking up the plates. He's still losing minions. Look at the gold, 1,100. The difference between the two top laners here, Trevor.
And in the mid lane, taking a look, a small advantage built up for Vetheo, around 600. With the fact that Kobee went down, it has now been punished by several plates being picked up by Upset and Hylissang. And Misfits, 5 kills to 3. They've got themselves nearly 2,000 gold in the lead. And it is from punishing Fnatic's over-aggression. It was from punishing Fnatic's decision to fight between multiple towers. And this time round, Misfits had the answer. When we were in the break talking about that previous game, I have felt like Misfits have been able to read where Fnatic wanted to apply pressure or read the states of the lanes. But in the previous game, Misfits didn't have an answer to the fights, didn't have the ability to win them. This time they have.
Yeah, definitely this time around they have a draft. They can actually back up what they want to do with those reads that they have for themselves. And while we were talking, while we were in replay, Rift Herald did go over to the side of Razort, while Drake went over to the side of Bwipo, so they traded objectives. But once again, look at the top tower, look at the bot tower. There's only 2 plates left. It's super easy for you to just instantly blow up a turret with this Rift Herald now, and you can do it wherever you please.
And fantastic start to game 4 for Misfits. Vetheo and Razort starting to leave the lane. They shove out mid. Nisqy, no teleport available. We'll be able to catch that wave in just a moment. And no flashes for any of the Upset or Hylissang. If they get caught by the Encore or the Enchanted Crystal Arrow, that will be additional kills for Misfits, but they're paying the due respect. And with the help of this Rift Herald, this will be the Tower First Blood secured at 10.5 minutes. Now all of a sudden, Misfits are on the hunt. Bwipo is nearby. Veteo's back in the mid lane. The arrow does tag Upset. He cleanses to safety. Realm Warp will bring Nisqy to the Krug camp, and 4 members versus 3. The kick back onto Bwipo. He's been exhausted. The Encore locks him in place, and Kobee gets the kill, the first of his game. Turns it into a 3v3. Hylissang steps all the way forward, but he doesn't have access to the ultimate. He's taken out by Razort. Misfits continue the chase. Seraphine doing so much work with the shields, the heals, and Razort with the damage to close it out. He gets a double kill, securing it onto Nisqy.
And that was 4 versus 3 as well from the side of Fnatic, and they still lost out on it. They're still losing in the mid lane. They're losing on the top side. Fnatic, everything is falling apart for them here. They might not be done. No, they are recalling now. TP's coming through. Vander, I think he's forced to flash.
He's going to flash over the wall, and Adam, how far does he continue the chase? Manages to step forward. I think Vetheo is waiting to protect Vander, and just as game 3 was one-sided in Fnatic's favor with proactive plays, with tower dives, with skirmishes, Misfits bite back immediately. 8 kills to 3. 5,000 gold up at 11 minutes and 43 seconds.
Lord have mercy. 11 minutes into the game, 6k gold lead to the side of Misfits. That might as well be 2 whole items, and you can already see Mythics are starting to come through once more. In the beginning, I think Fnatic, once again, they're being a bit too overzealous. They're trying a bit too hard here. Really nice kick from the side of Razort. And as soon as you're forced to use a Heartbreaker defensively on Viego, you pretty much have nothing else to do. I'm just going to tap out of that replay.
And it's all of a sudden, Hirit is going to be surrounded. Can he pick up the kill before the reinforcements arrive? Razort and Vander are nearby. Hirit's going to hop over the wall. That's a Sonic Wave connecting for Razort. There's no ultimate available for Vander, so this will be a back away in favor of Misfits. And just remember that the reason Misfits have this advantage and lead is because Fnatic overchased. They moved all the way to the inner turret at what, 6-7 minutes in? The entire team moved into Misfits jungle, and Misfits were able to punish it. Were able to find the kills and then turn the aggression around.
But it's the thing we've seen with Fnatic before as well. It's one of the things we can compliment them on with the proactivity, but sometimes they're just biting too much of that cake and they just can't swallow it. And that's what happened beforehand. So Misfits put in this lovely position where they finally get to dictate the pace of the game. And that's a position we love to see them in, especially when you've opened up the side lanes, because that means you can push the lane very, very far. And as soon as a guy like Upset or towards the top side, Adam have to collect on it, you can move the rest of the members around the map to try and track down this mid lane, to try and collect the last outer turret.
And of course, for Misfits, when they have been in positions with sort of a gold lead and the ability to initiate fights, they have demonstrated many, many times this summer that they are good enough to take down anybody in the league. Right now, this is a gigantic advantage, 6.5k. The one thing to sort of call out is as we progress past those outer turrets, and the fact that Misfits do not yet have a dragon, they cannot make the same mistakes that Fnatic made. They cannot overcommit and get punished, because the resets from both Viego and Tristana are, could be game-changing, but I do think at the moment it will be up to Misfits to try to avoid that. The Ashe arrow comes up, buys just a little bit of time. Teleport completed as well. Upset, will not be able to get out just yet. He does indeed with the W. Now all of a sudden Razort looking for the kill into Bwipo. Bwipo going to use the Heartbreaker to safety, and Razort continues the chase. Sonic Wave will not find its target, and that was a great pick-off that started with Hylissang.
Especially when you just started to say Misfit, you just need to take it easy. There's still 14 minutes into the game. You can't overforce anything just yet. But with what was expended by Fnatic, they still have to back up, and I still think the priority around the Drake is going to be in favor of Misfits. But as a Fnatic fan, you love to see small picks like that.
Now Vetheo and Vander being surrounded by multiple members of Fnatic. They will not get the tower, but they shove the minion wave in and peel into the river first.
They're just doing a good job. You can see this is clearly planned, where they're waiting for someone to jump up and clear up the minion wave. They have the summoners down, and Kobee doesn't have anything. So as soon as he's getting attacked by that whatever it is, there it is, thank you very much. He's just out of there, and it's super easy for Fnatic. As soon as the Sonic Waves miss, there's nothing they can do to commit.
And I think the timing on that also very, very important. Hirit Mega Gnar bar was on cooldown. A very tired Gnar once again will use that ultimate to buy some time for himself. The wallop just as he's about to be taken out, and Nisqy with the help of Hirit, with the help of Adam rather, will be able to pick up that kill. So Fnatic finding multiple picks. This is exactly what Misfits did not need to do. They were able to secure both the mid tower and secure the dragon though. So net positive overall, but you start to get a little nervous, start to get a little uncomfortable, because those picks are what allow Fnatic to get back into the game.
Yeah, the gold lead is still at the same 6k gold lead still for Misfits, but it's what Fnatic does so well. As soon as they see a cross map is available for them, they punish Hirit, who's too far away extended, and it actually nets them something back into the game. As Misfits, if you have been able to pick up this Herald, that would have been lovely for you to excel your gold lead.
And of course, try to push deeper into potential inner turret territory. Bwipo will see members of Misfits through the mid lane, immediately back away, so the Rift Herald has been interrupted for now. Potential target for either squad as we move forward, and both teams starting to hit those level 11s. Big items picked up across the board. Adam still waiting to complete his mythic. Still behind in CS, obviously lost the tower. Got put so far behind in the early stages of the game. But if you've been watching the whole series, that happened in game 1. Adam was bullied, Adam was put down, but he still had a fantastic impact during the course of the team fights later on.
He definitely did, and that was the key part, is the flashes to get the stun to facilitate his carries. Nisqy and Obstead still very much can be carries, but the thing is they're just so much behind the curve right now, so they need to continue doing what they've been doing so well, sacrifice the early objectives like the Drake or a potential second Rift Herald, and try and attack the member of Misfits that's standing alone.
I mean, it's such a interesting situation to be in once again, that with 3 towers secured already, with so many kills on the board, the game kind of slows down after the first 10 or 12 minutes, because both teams are just so willing to create these environments where fights will happen. This Herald may be the next objective. Kobee's returning from base, got himself shield bow, and the rest of Misfits relatively close by. Hawkshot will reveal, and Hirit can start to charge up that Gnar bar. I think wisely decide not to engage, not enough members nearby, and Vetheo's pushing that bottom lane.
Yeah, so Rift Herald denied from the side of Misfits, but as you said yourself, he is pushing that bottom lane, and he is going to be picking up a turret, which, by the way, gives 600 gold, which is the equivalent of 2 kills, so definitely not something you're too unhappy about, and they're still pushing down the mid lane, so do you even need this Rift Herald?
Well, it doesn't feel like it right now. Misfits extend that lead even further. 7,500. Ashe Arrow will force out the cleanse from Upset. The rest of Fnatic are split up. Adam's in the top lane. Bwipo on the Viego is making his way down through the blue buff. And while Fnatic will pick up their first tower, is at the cost of their inhibitor turrets. 6 towers secured already, and Misfits can litter the Fnatic jungle with wards and start to back away, spend some of that hard-earned gold.
Yeah, definitely, and as Misfits right now, as we get the resets through, you want to start attacking the top side of the map or the next coming Drake, because there is only one tier 2 turret left, and if you get that down, wherever the next objective is, you can come in and trim that vision. You can take away the jungle camps, and that's what Misfits need to do to stay on top of that gold lead, to keep accelerating it.
I don't really know how I feel about this series so far. It's been so heavily influenced by 1 or 2 picks from the draft, and then just team fight after team fight after team fight. Whoever gets an early kill advantage seems to just run away with the game.
I think Mickey X in a recent interview put it quite well, that teams are getting so close to being at the same level that at times the victory is just coming down to that draft. And I think when Misfits are put in a position where they have the better extended team fight, like you do with the Oriana, like the Seraphine pick by Vander, it's just a better scenario for you. But Fnatic, they're so good at finding picks.
Well, can they kill Vander? He's able to flash away right now. That encore bought some time, plus the exhaust. Bwipo's going to try stand on that rumble, but he interrupted it. Doesn't manage to escape. Instant pause coming out there, as we'll have to take a close look. Vander managing to survive that encore into the flash. Put distance.
I don't know specifically there if that was Bwipo walking out with the W and then trying to dash into it afterwards, or if it just didn't connect to him there. It looked very slippery in the moment, but Fnatic trying to find the pick, getting caught by it.
And of course, this is us making an assumption right now on exactly where the pauses come from. We will confirm that for you in a few moments' time. But the pressure is on. And this game currently heavily in favor of Misfits. If they are able to extend this lead, if they are able to close it out, we are going to a Game 5 once again.
And that is so exciting in general. There's only one series we've had that didn't go to the full 5 games, but outside of that, Trevor, it's neck and neck between a lot of our teams here in the league.
Both of these teams played the 5-game series. Misfits lost their Game 5. Fnatic won theirs. And I think a little bit more importantly than just that, for Misfits to be in this position once again, it is one of the most interesting stories of summer. I think this is a team that not only stuck with their players from spring, when literally more than half of the league changed, they consistently show that they can compete with the best. They consistently show they're up there.
I definitely agree. And I also think as Misfits, as a roster, have a lot of individual talent. I think sometimes they play off this talent as well very well. And sometimes some of the fundamentals does get lost because some of their victories can just be netted by a huge team fight coming out for them, or a singular player who's doing so well for them as well.
I mean, it's like inconsistencies, right? When you look at the Misfits team overall, they have individuals that can pop off in almost every single role, and we've seen that throughout all of summer. But just that baseline of the expectations or the ability to go even and then win from an even game state is something that they need to continue to develop. And then on the flip side, Fnatic have just been all-in aggression all summer. There is no hesitation. There is no go slow button. And that has both been a blessing and a curse for the squad.
I genuinely agree. It's coming down to acknowledging and identifying when these things are a good proactivity and when it's going too far ahead. And I think example like today with Vander just moving up for the skirmish initially, very good, very good. You have the priority, you have the time to do so. Moving upset down there to continue a fight between 2 turrets so Kobee can just get gold for himself, you losing out afterwards. That is probably on the line of what we would call an overextension.
Oh, no doubt about that. I think that is the most obvious analysis that we can do today.
I'm here all day.
As a quick update, I have heard from the league officials that this is a Fnatic pause. There was a claim that a bug has occurred and league officials are investigating. So we'll keep you updated as that process goes along. And again, it's just an interesting series because I want to pick up on the point you were talking about in terms of like the team fighting and the overextension, the overaggression. I still feel like some of these fights, some of these initiations are on the line of being too bold, too brave.
I'm here for it. Honestly, I like brave League of Legends. I'm really of the opinion that if you play to be proactive, you play to be the one pulling the trigger, you get ahead. Especially if you get laning phases where you're able to take over games. I think Rogue is a great example of this, but I also think Misfit in this game, finally when you identify that us having a bot lane really just helps the rest of the map to actually play for our entirety. I think Misfits as a team in this series is learning a lot about themselves because of how they're pushed by Fnatic, both in game but also from a drafting perspective.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think the drafts that Misfits have brought today have definitely shown they can win. Now, while league officials investigate, we are going to head over to the analyst desk to keep us updated.
Thank you very much, Trevor. This is kind of a unique possibility because we do have treats here, being how we can talk about a situation like this. Mind you, we're still waiting for kind of the official wording coming out of the officials. So, but you immediately said, actually, that's a pause, that's a chrono break. Why? What did you see?
I mean, I saw the Ryze realm warp trying to make Bwipo escape, and he just W'd, and then it didn't work, but it should work. So I think that's probably what happened and why the pause was like done in the first place.
What happens then if you're in this situation where I think you've been part of a chrono break or two already, right?
Yeah.
Versus Fnatic also specifically?
Oof, that's a good question. I'm not sure when, but I have this split, yeah.
So what does it work? How does it work now if you're the team that pauses?
Yeah, so basically you're not allowed to talk most of the time, so you just sit there and wait until you get an update, which is kind of boring and you kind of lose focus, but you're just trying to stay in it as good as you can and just try to think of the game and try to visualize it still and still kind of be present, even though it's not the same. But yeah, I think most of them are just trying to stay focused and keep track of the game.
So you can't open like a Minesweeper window and have like...
That would be fun. Maybe a paint window, like some Wonder paint, yeah.
But you're offered, you can take or like not take the chrono break, right? Is that correct?
I'm not sure actually. That one is...
Wait, exact wording.
Yeah, that one is a tricky one to answer for me.
In any case, let's go back onto the picks and bans that we did have, because we saw a return from Misfits to a lot of the elements we saw in the game they won in Game 2, being the Ashe bot lane, the Seraphine, but with a different top lane this time in Gnar, as the pans down to this beautiful keyboard. Vetheo, what can you tell me about the form of the draft that we saw at Misfits and what the important adaptations were?
Well, I think the draft this time around is much more about team fighting. And I think that the most crucial thing is that they actually gave the counter pick for Hirit rather than prio picking the Gnar, largely because when you blind pick the Camille, you then have the ability to counterpick it with the Reketon. This time around, Hirit is in a more favorable matchup that doesn't need resources, but you can look to play through if you want to. Meanwhile, they have a bot lane winning matchup because they know they're playing into the Braum that they know will also scale better into the late game. And they also have a winning matchup in mid lane because of the Oriana. So by shifting their priorities and early picking bot and making it a more bot-centric focused comp, yeah, perhaps this isn't exactly the style that Misfits is used to, but against Fnatic, it's one effective method that we actually talked about earlier, which is you draft team fight, you draft scaling, and you know that at some point Fnatic is going to make a mistake, which means that you can then just wait for the late game and then scale.
Yeah, let's pull up the replay in the top lane where Fnatic get, I don't know how many kills. Like, first off, they got a couple of kills top already for Adam, right? It was going really well, and then this happens. And we had like a kill map at the beginning of the show, and I wanted to see like exactly how many times they overpush in between towers very early in the game. But Treats, can you tell me, when does it start going wrong here for Fnatic? When should they have bailed out?
It's already gone wrong.
Okay.
I think when they start chasing Hirit, that's when the disaster happens, and they don't need to do this. They were winning at the map on almost all points, and instead of this, they just go for a super stupid dive on top tier 2, and even Upset leaves bot lane to join this fight, which I think is completely crazy. Meanwhile, Kobee is just chilling on the bot tower, so this was too much from Fnatic for sure.
Really crazy.
It's very reminiscent of a solo queue game, where you forget that very early into the game, respawn times are very low. So you sit there and you think, hey, we can get more, and then already the person that you just killed is now alive and now TPing back into the fight, and you're like, wait a minute, we haven't spent any of our money. We don't have the same HP bars. We also don't have any ultimates. This fight, while even if it's even numbers, is nowhere near in favor of us. So
Guildvork said Misfits is probably learning a lot about themselves in this series so far, and probably also about Fnatic. What do you think the main things are that they learned so far in this series about playing versus this Fnatic Misfits?
I think Misfits learned that they can't really just leave their bot lane on an island against Fnatic, and they have to actually have some winning matchups as well in bot lane. I think before this series, they were kind of just like mid to top, top to mid, top to mid. But now they realize that they actually have to play and incorporate their bot lane as well in a lot of the early plays. And I think that's why they've picked up the win, and that's why this game is also looking pretty good for them so far.
Yeah, it's for sure heading in the Misfits direction. But if you're just joining us, League officials are still investigating a potential bug reported by Fnatic, which occurred at 19 minutes, 15 seconds into Game 4. We'll have an update for you very quickly. Oh, it does make me think about the... I saw this thread that was like about polite banter about it, and some people were taking the piss about some of the pauses in the past, which is kind of tricky, right? Because you have the right to do this, and it's very clear.
I also think that what I saw, it seemed like a very legitimate pause. Like,
yeah. Regardless, I just thought it was kind of funny. But for sure, that's why we have League officials. They look into this. Now, let's take a look at the side from Fnatic, because I feel like until this moment, you know, even in some of your predictions, not you, I think you actually predicted Misfits, you had this feeling where Fnatic should edge out because a lot of the things that they've done wrong and hasn't been Misfits forcing them. But I guess the issue is if you're Misfits and you're well equipped to catching the throws and you know that this is going to happen, you don't have to do anything else. For Fnatic, on the other hand, Vetheo, they've now done this 3-4 games in a row where they overpush when they're not supposed to. So, you know, how do you think that's going to play out?
Well, this is the scary thing about Fnatic, right? Normally, because they are aware of their over-aggression, Game 5 is also where I think Fnatic look their scariest. We saw it against Vitality, right, where that was actually probably the most one-sided game of the whole series. They dominated from level 2 onwards because of their play bot lane, and it just kind of snowballed from there. So I think that Misfits is kind of like catching the aggression from Fnatic, but the thing that you can't ignore is that in this early game, Fnatic was already starting to snowball, right? Fnatic was already starting to mount a lead, and it was their over-aggression that ended up getting punished. But if you just remove that over-aggression, how different does this game suddenly look? And that's ultimately what makes this team very scary.
Yeah, but this is a professional level. Like, this is like your playoffs.
No, but the point is, that the reason why I say that is because you get another opportunity. So, okay, we run it back, we do the same thing, but this time we don't dive their towers. Now we're at 2K gold up at 15 minutes, and now we're in control of the game.
Must be nice, Treats.
Yeah, I mean, I think Fnatic is thinking to themselves after the early game, like, oh, this is just another free game. We're just going to keep doing our thing. Oh, now we just threw the game. Now we're back at Game 5, guys. And then they're just going to repeat it again. I think that's how they're thinking, at least. And honestly, it looks like the games that Misfits have won, they are really good at catching the Fnatic mistakes. And I think Fnatic makes a lot of mistakes. But Fnatic also has a lot of good plays. And I think the Game 5 against Vitality is the perfect example where they just, everything lines up for them and everyone plays good, no one hints, and then it looks really clean.
In my opinion, I think a good metaphor would be that Fnatic is driving the train, right? And Fnatic ultimately are deciding how fast or slow the train goes. And it seems like coming into this series, they are full accelerating. They're making the train go as fast as they possibly can, right? The problem is
Busan, it looks like.
If the train ever goes off the rails, that is when Misfits then take that opportunity and they then look to take control of the train.
So has it only been that in the games that Misfits has won, or the situations that Misfits has won so far? Has it been them waiting it out and making sure they give the right counter punch? And do we have faith in the fact that if this does go to a Game 5, that they can then decide it if Fnatic, as said, takes it a little slower?
Well, that's the thing that concerns me is it does feel like that a lot of the games that Misfits is winning is Fnatic losing. It feels like that the mistakes from Fnatic are being caught from Misfits. And if you want to make that a valid strategy, I'm not saying that's a wrong way to play because it works, but it means that you don't then seem to have as much control over your own destiny rather than you're relying on your opposition to make the mistake for you to catch.
I kind of want to explore that because it's so interesting, right? And I think we always get into this situation also when we're discussing a series afterwards and a team won and it's like, yeah, they were not supposed to win, but the other team just inted. It's like, no, listen, you're inting, so that means you don't deserve to win the series.
Well, that's the debate, right? So like, I have a really famous example. Okay.
Poor Streets is just like, can I get my point?
But I have this really so Invictus Gaming versus Team Liquid.
Yeah.
Okay. That is a really famous series because to many analysts, Invictus Gaming lost that series rather than Team Liquid winning it. And of course, like, to many fans, it's like, why would you take that away from Team Liquid? But when you kind of look at the game in a way of like, Trees, do you agree with me that when you do analysis, normally what you do is you kind of create this idea of the perfect world, the perfect game. If everybody plays perfectly, this is what the game should look like. And then you kind of compare the actual game to your idea of the perfect one, and then you see how big the difference is. And then as a result of that, you can judge who actually made more mistakes than someone else because you have these expectations around who's supposed to play. And I think that when we look at this series in particular, Fnatic have these clear win conditions, which is like, okay, you have like strong agency in the early game. You're often picking a winning like top jungle duo, you should be snowballing, you should be getting ahead, and then they do, and then you just need to maintain control over that lead, and then they throw the lead away, which is why when you look at it, it kind of looks like, oh, they're the ones actually throwing away their win condition when they've already achieved the first step towards it.
Devil's advocate.
Tell me.
Devil's advocate. When you talk about a team like Damwon, and you have any team that is supposed to be worse than them, right? And there's a situation in which the enemy team, let's call it Fnatic or whatever, just whatever team really from NA or do, Vietnam, whatever, they fight against someone and they get an advantage or whatnot. But there is that quintessential moment where they drop the ball, down one turns it around, and then the trains just left the station and they are going to win that game because they are de facto better. I feel like we always talk, then we talk about, well, obviously the enemy team was just better, and we never say as much that team threw it away. So why aren't we giving the same credit maybe to these two teams? And I know we're talking about a world champion here compared to round
but
two
I think the perspective is interesting. Do you want to comment on it first?
Yeah, I mean, I think in general it is a fine line to walk, and I think it is kind of like, especially in this league meta where the mid-late game matters a lot, it is up to the other team that's ahead to actually win it, and if they don't, then they don't deserve to win. I think that's kind of simple, and I think Misfits is a perfect example of a team that continues to just pick up wins from teams that throw them. I think they've done this like throughout the season. I remember the G2 Elder Fiesta that happened, and a few games against Fnatic. So I think it's props to the teams that pick up the wins, but it can be both ways, I think.
So do you think that for Misfits, that, oh sorry, do you want to add?
Oh, well, so I think that ultimately it comes down to a matter of perspective, because the thing that I agree with you on is that, like, deserved to win, I think, is the winner. Right? That's the part that, like, at the end of the day, if you threw, that's your fault, and I'm not going to give you any sympathy. But I think that, like, the way in which a team lost, I understand, and, like, I mean, I've said it myself, like, the Rogue Mad one, people sit there and so Rogue threw that final game. Rogue could have won that game, and Rogue was in a position to win that game. Did they deserve to win the game? No. And it's one of those things where, like, sure, on paper they should have, that you can make the argument that the game was stolen from them, or like they.
I hate that narrative.
I mean, that's fine.
I hate that
that's totally fine.
No one stole anyone's championship. You should have just taken it. Sorry. That's like.
I mean, that's totally fine.
That makes me so angry.
But, like, that's where the perspective comes from, right? Because when you're in this, like, if we look at this game right now, if you look at Misfit's position and the fact that Fnatic is in this position with the comp that they have, if Fnatic win this game, the perspective will be that Misfits through. So
this is a very nice little rabbit hole to go down to as I steer it back to the game. Just another update for you. If you are just joining us, no, Adam is not taking a nap for fun. In fact, League officials are still investigating a potential bug reported by Fnatic, which occurred at 19-15 minutes into Game 4. I want to say this is a bit unusual that it does take so long to kind of pinpoint it, but that means it's more complicated than met the eye for us, possibly, in Shadow Play, right? Oh no, it's Viego again. So let's pull it back to this matchup then, although I do like where we were going here with that discussion. I think you're right. At the end of the day, everything is a part of perspective.
It's perspective.
For sure.
Because it exists in traditional sports too, right?
Yes, but I'd like to be careful, because what I was trying to get at is that we do give some teams then the benefit of the doubt in these situations. I think that's what we're doing for Fnatic now as well. So I want to argue the fair part of the Misfits possibilities, because as said, they can just keep doing what they're doing. So let's break it out a little bit. I want to talk about the jungle matchup, for instance. Razort versus Bwipo. I think Bwipo has had an astronomical rise to the top of the jungle top here in LEC, I would say. But can you tell me, what are the things he needs to work on if we look at the fact that Razor has been able to come back in some of these games?
I think Bwipo in general has the same problems he did when he's playing top lane, and that when he's ahead, he likes to go for plays, often very good plays, but also sometimes very bad plays, and I think that always just bites him. Like, he has these moments where he just loses his mind and just goes off, like, flashes in 1v4 and then dies and stuff like this, and just it brings his team quite a disaster. So I think when he's on a leash and he can chill a bit in the game and he doesn't feel very pressured to do something, I think he plays the best. That's why he's also had these really good early games so far.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, the man's a good player, but obviously we've talked a lot about the hand-holding of Bwipo and Hylissang and the fact that they're really like a dog with a bone, right, in terms of wanting to go for the kills. Talk to me about this guy then, Razor, who, as we said, he doesn't always have the easiest job, I feel like, in the Misfits, right? No. Especially not in the best of 5 like this. But what have you thought about his performance so far, and how can he make the difference going forward?
Well, I think that when we just look at his statistics, you can see that he's definitely had more impact in the early game than what we saw from him last week. What surprised me was how, like, when you look at his KDA, a stat that often people like to meme, in this instance, there was quite a dramatic shift in the KDA. And the reason why is because Razort is dying a lot. Razort is being punished a lot for his early aggression. And I think that this is something that I credit Bwipo a lot for. When we watched the Bwipo versus Selfmade matchup, what I was so impressed with Selfmade was how he tracked and read Bwipo and was able to counter gank a lot of his plays. Now, he wasn't always able to counter him, even if he was in the right position, but he did. It almost feels like the Bwipo is doing the same thing to Razort, where he has these expectations around what he plans to do and how he plans to do that, and then trying to counter and shut that down. And I think we saw that especially in, was it I know I was going to say the Viego game. He's played Viego every game.
Which one? Yeah.
But there was one where he, like, Bwipo was there for the mid lane play, and then he was there top lane for the top lane dive as well. And it was just like, it feels to me that Razort is still very influential in Misfit's early game. He's still very important, but I do feel like Bwipo is making his life very difficult in the early game.
Bit of a side question here, since we are still filling and the league officials are still looking to look at it. Mephisto from Vitality told us last week that he thought that Bwipo was actually working with, I think, content creators and looking at like specific pathing options. I don't know, maybe even build and champions options. Who knows? We know that there's a positional coach for Armut in the top lane. Let me 1 second as I read you this update. So at 19:15 in the game, Fnatic reported a bug that potentially stopped Viego from teleporting through the Ryze ult. League officials are investigating. So yes, it was Viego again.
Of course.
To quote Inspired, thank you, Riot. Viego. But let's see what happens. So, you know, what do you think about this evolution? And do you think we've come at a place where metas are changing ever rapidly? There's new champions all the time. There's people role swapping more than ever before and whatnot. What do you think about this evolution of looking for outside sources to improve your craft, Treat?
I think in general, a lot of teams do this at some capacity, some more than others. Some have positional coaches for everyone in the team. Some have for certain roles, like maybe Fnatic only has for jungle and bot, for example. I'm not sure what their setup is, but I think especially for a role swap person, it probably helps Whip a lot. He's someone who likes to absorb a lot of information from different places and use them really well. So I'm not surprised that he has something like this set up.
When you're in like a team environment where, you know, obviously there's a lot that goes into the specific team setup in terms of you have the games that you play on stage that you have to review, you're playing your scrims, then you have to review those. I guess there's also for a lot like other team sessions, team building sessions, I don't know, workouts, whatever. Do you think it's hard when you're in the string of that season to be able to be creative and think outside the box in that regard, because so much is focused on what do I need to do for this next 2 games I'm playing this weekend, as opposed to I'd really love to sit down and like play solo queue for 3 days with this new pick?
Yeah, there's definitely an insane balance that you have to ride, and it's also, you don't want to just focus on the next 2 games because you want to also be prepared for playoffs, and you want to make sure you have a good work-life balance so you don't end up like Mad Lions and burn out after 2 regular season games, etc. So I think there's a lot that goes into it, and I think it depends on the individual. Some people have schedules where they play 15 solo queue games per day and have one-on-one coaching 2 times a week, etc. And some just like to relax and do other things. So I think it really depends on the person, and I think it's becoming more and more adaptable.
Hi, Hirit.
Hello.
Yeah, we want you to get back in the game as well, buddy, for sure. But at least he's staying hydrated, which is always great. Listen, I think we've had all we had to say about kind of the course of this game before it gets played out again and we know the update. What do you say we look forward to tomorrow and the rest of the weekend? Mad versus Rogue.
Sure.
Vetheo. What do you think?
Where would you like to start?
I would like to start at who you think will win and why.
I'm predicting Mads to
Right.
win. And for Euphoria, I did predict Rogue.
Wait, how does that work?
Well, so I was on Euphoria 2 weeks ago.
Ah, I see. And then the Misfits happened.
Yeah, and then Misfits happened. I think that, how do I explain this? So we have time, right? So I can just waffle a little bit.
At least 2 more minutes.
Okay, cool. So the thing about whenever we go to Worlds, something that I always do is I look at current skill level versus potential, right? So it's difficult to do that for international teams because I don't watch enough LPL or LCK to sit there and truly see the potential. But domestically, it's easy for me to be able to tell, like, okay, what do I think the ceiling of this team is versus the level that they're playing at? And that then gives me either optimism or pessimism about them going into a
Generally pessimism.
into an international tournament, because the great thing about international scrims is you grow massively within that time window. And I think that when we look back at 2019 G2, after watching them play in the final and after watching them like during the regular season, I genuinely believe that this was like the greatest roster Europe has ever had. And I was extremely motivated and believed that that potential was so insanely high. Mad, I don't have that same feeling just yet, but the potential to me has been very obvious throughout the regular season. Like, you can see many instances, in my opinion, where like you could see very clearly what the idea was, even if the execution was poor. You could see the idea behind the draft, even if things didn't work out the way they wanted to. And you could see all these things that they were very clearly thinking about, even if they couldn't quite execute upon it yet. And already having that idea, I think, gives you a lot of hope for that team.
I've got an update, I believe.
Tell me.
Is that correct, John? Yep, here we go. So, at 19:15 in the game, Fnatic reported a bug that potentially stopped Viego from teleporting through the Ryze ult, but League officials have concluded that this is an intended interaction. Get back over to our casters.
Thank you so much for breaking that down. While our league officials did investigate the situation, it is a tough one. Fnatic are down a significant amount against Misfits, and of course, that attempted gank onto Vander did not go well. As we're just about to jump into the game and there will be action, Misfits punished a Fnatic dive in the top lane. They were able to secure multiple back-to-back kills and gigantic advantages in the top and the bottom lane by picking up plates and denying farm to their opponents.
Yeah, and ever since then, we've kind of opted into where the first turret has been taken off the map. We're just looking at that top side. So right now you can clearly see, despite being 19 minutes into the game, very favored map state to Misfits right now.
Gigantic. If you have just joined us, welcome back. We are in game 4, where Misfits are on their last legs. If they do not close this game out, they will be eliminated from playoffs, from Worlds, and their 2021 will end. I do want to quote something that Vetheo mentioned on the analyst desk, that before Fnatic overdived and chased the Misfits members in the top lane, they were in control of the game. They were dictating the tempo of the game, being very proactive, finding kills and dives, and unfortunately, over-chasing cost them this time around.
Well, let's see if it's going to cost someone else their life, because Hirit, he's caught off guard alone.
He is indeed. Dominus into the Mega Gnar as well. Hylissang has joined the fray, so has Upset, and that will be the kill secured. Adam picks it up, another pick, and that is a string of individual kills that Fnatic have been able to put together.
And that's how they do it every time, Fnatic. They get into a position where an objective is up for Misfit. They use a lot of their members to clean up the Drake, and then the guy who's supposed to be the weak side, the guy who's supposed to stand off a little bit, doesn't do it. And every time Fnatic, they're there to punish it.
Well, this time around, it will be the Ocean Dragon picked up by Misfits 2-1. We've just passed that 20-minute mark, and Misfits have already taken down 6 towers this game. Only the top inner turret remaining. There's an exposed inhibitor in the middle lane as well. So this will allow Misfits some options. No flash yet for Vander, despite some CC. He just gets blown up once again. And as Bwipo has been able to steal away that Seraphine, chucked out some CC, but this is bold. Fnatic, despite being so far behind in gold, they are forcing Misfits into their own base.
They are definitely not slowing down, and they have the map state once again to do so. The bot lane is pushed in by Adam, that he can just back off now, so all these members of the top side are not losing anything because they're there. So they're just moving around as one cohesive unit. They did it to try and catch Hirit, and they just did it against Vander as well. Misfit, they need to stabilize. You need to be able to push out your lane, get that defensive vision, and make sure that you are the one to do this, because realistically speaking, with this gold lead, they should be the one to do this.
Yeah, exactly the case. Now, what led to that top play was Vetheo pushing in the bottom inner turret. Dragon was available, and they were able to secure that one. And as you look at the minimap, there is very deep vision in that top quadrant that Fnatic placed from the previous engagements. That's going to start to be cleared out slowly here by members of Misfits, who have both of their teleports available. I can see Adam has his as well as Nisqy, in fact. And that means that we're probably just going to be in this like neutral wave state until somebody sets up for one of these objectives.
So it's going to be done in stages now. Just now what happened was them just clearing out the aggressive vision from Fnatic. Great. Now when you start getting lane priority again, you can put in the vision towards the river. Great. Now when you have that solidified, then you can start moving it forward. So because they got caught off guard with 2 members like that, they kind of had to start over again.
Yeah, exactly. And reset, regain control, and push that out. Still a number of Fnatic wards behind the members of Misfits, and Fnatic have been more than willing to initiate fights over and over. Razort flashes forward. It's going to be a response from Upset. The Enchanted Crystal Arrow not yet fired from Kobee, but here comes Nisqy. Adams left the bottom lane, and Hirit is in Mega Gnar. So if he joins, it will not last for long. The Ashe Arrow sidestep by Nisqy, anticipating that one. And ultimately, just the flash trades between Razort and Upset, but that is important for the next fight.
It definitely is, but now Fnatic, they're out looking for these small skirmishes again. They're chasing around, and this small these small vision pockets they're creating for themselves, because right now on the bottom side, there's no tier 2 turret. There's no tier 2 turret in mid lane either. It is really just about getting control of the top side jungle of Fnatic from the side of Misfits, but they're waiting around, anticipating it.
And Razort just walks into the darkness. Not taken out just yet. Survives the buster shot. Doesn't secure the kill thanks to the command protect. But now Vetheo's in trouble. Teleport is now being channeled as Adam joins the fray. Razort will be the next target. Misfits are conceding the lead. Now Fnatic turn their attention to Baron. They've got a 2-man advantage. Hirit, Kobee, Vander are around. The encore is available. When does Vander throw it? It has to be huge. Hirit is gnawed out. The Realm Warp is being channeled and jumping right on top of Hirit. The Gnar comes back. The encore catches 5. And we have another pause. Oh my word.
Are you kidding me? Again?
Oh my word.
Not again. And in the middle of a team fight.
In the middle of a team fight, but I cannot comprehend Misfit stepping forwards into the darkness. The vision wasn't there. Like, I need to see the setup again, right? Maybe there was something that they assumed that I missed. Just as an update, this is another Fnatic pause. I believe Fnatic, it's with relation to the Ryze Ultimate. And as soon as we get more confirmation for you, we will. But that 9,000 gold lead is dwindling down to 4,000 and a potential play for Baron for Fnatic.
It definitely is. And, you know, Misfits getting caught off guard in this position. We just talked about it. Fnatic, they're creating these vision pockets. It's not a lot, but it's enough. And when Misfits just decide to skip steps, once again, your lanes, you need to push forward. Wait for the respawn of a Fnatic member. When you see them start clearing waves, then you clear the vision, not when you don't have vision of everyone.
Oh, absolutely. Put yourself in the player's shoes right now. We're in game 4 of an elimination series. It has been a long day with very, very one-sided wins. It has an impact on your mentality, your approach. And now, of course, with Fnatic being so significantly down, and unfortunately for Misfits, losing some focus, losing individual members, it's a difficult scenario to be in.
Definitely is. Let's be honest, especially back to back, having the momentum, slowing down, having the momentum just because you get killed as well, you start getting a bit panicky as well because you feel the pressure. As a player, when you have a big gold lead, you get the pressure that it is on me to win the games. I love the way the analyst has talked about it as well, because it's because that it's your game to throw that you start feeling this pressure. It's because that you have the gold lead that you know you need to do something about it, and then you get overheated and you skip steps.
Yeah, and of course, on the Misfit side, with the gigantic advantage they have, maybe a little bit of complacency, maybe a little bit of quote-unquote rogue time decision-making. Just as an update to everybody watching, Fnatic reported another bug with relation to the Ryze Ultimate. League officials are investigating using Shadowplay, the ability to review what the players saw and decisions they made, buttons they clicked, etc. So while they're investigating that, we once again will go into a pause. The gold lead is now only 4,500. It was up to around 8,500 or 9,000. But for several minutes prior to the first pause, Misfits members were getting caught off and caught out. And that is something that they cannot afford to do because of how powerful Fnatic's composition is, and the fact that if you give them any additional itemization, the resets in teamfights become very problematic to deal with.
Yeah, definitely. And I also think the comms wants to do the same. They're both about the team fighting, and then it comes down to execution. Right now, Fnatic, they're just executing better because Misfits, they don't get to be the one pushing in the wave and being first of the objective to kind of threaten Fnatic to feel desperate. Right now, despite being this much gold down, it still feels like, at least from when we got out of the pause into this one, that Fnatic was in control.
I mean, it definitely did, because of the fact they had got kills onto Razort and Vetheo, and theoretically could have made a play for Baron. That would have equalized that gold difference, potentially put them in control of the game. And it is like quite crazy to think that if Misfits are able to close this game out, there is still a game 5 to decide who advances to face G2 on Sunday, who is eliminated here from playoffs. And it's already been a very, very long day. While league officials continue to investigate, we're going to head back over to the analyst desk.
Thank you very much. Where were we in terms of a preview for tomorrow? Just kidding. I do have a replay of that moment again. So maybe Treats and Vetheo, can we look at it and see what looks wrong with it? This is, of course, not official or anything. This is just kind of
gonna watch a quick review.
Look at what happened, which is supposedly another issue with the Ryze Ultimate. So
let's see. Let's have a look. So the first thing to note is that Misfits have been getting picked off left, right, and center for the last couple of minutes. And we initially saw this pretty smart plays from Fnatic, making cross-map happen every time an objective was up. They would look for a pick, and after getting this big pick onto a jungler, obviously the next clear play becomes Baron, and this is the very obvious way that they get back into the game. So, very big plays for Fnatic. Now, I'm just waiting to see exactly what happens.
Ryze's coming in here soon, and let's see what happens with this one.
Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4. He's in it, but they're not.
So the Braum doesn't travel with them? Was it just Braum?
But he wasn't in the circle? Not sure. Inconclusive.
We're not the experts
I mean, that's why I'm glad I don't have to make a decision, because I don't know what happened there.
When I came out of the last pause, I saw I had a Reddit message, and someone said, I think what it, and it was actually what it was, which was pretty funny. But yes, as you rightfully saw, I'm not reading Reddit whilst I'm on the segment. Here we go.
So they're saying that Hylissang should, I mean,
yeah,
I can see why that they would want Hylissang.
He should be in.
Yeah, he should be in. I would think that I was in if I was Hylissang, and he's not doing anything.
Potentially he was pathing out or clicking out, maybe. We'll see. Shadow
there's
play.
a weird thing where if you're clicking.
Oh yeah, if you're on the edge and then you click out, it's
that might be
you want to get out.
Too much clicking.
You can also click B if you want to not use the Ryze ult, but I don't think he was clicking B in that case.
He definitely wanted to use the Ryze ult. I'm going to say he wanted to. Regardless, we do have a poll for you guys at home. Who do you think is going to win this series? I think even this game would be, but let's say this series. Oh, it's game 4 on the graphic. Yeah, so FNC or Misfits, because it is actually getting close, but maybe if you want to vote like for the whole series, I think it'd probably equate with game 4 as well, probably, if you're a Fnatic fan.
I mean, so, honest question.
Hit me.
I mean, I don't know if you've actually been in this position, because I can't remember all your games over your many years, but you have a big lead after a pause.
Yeah.
How is your focus after that lead? How do you feel?
We had one of these games in spring against XL, I think.
Right.
Where we had a lead and then there was a pause and then suddenly we lost the game from like 2 or 3 plays, just like how Misfits did now. And then you just start thinking like, what even happened? Like there was just a pause and then the game was over. So I'm not sure what happened after that. So you kind of just like, if you lose focus slightly, it can snowball pretty hard. And I think that's what happened to Misfits as well. They kind of just lost focus after the pause and it was, yeah, now it's looking kind of grim, honestly.
We apparently have pro view of Hylissang as well in that moment. Let's take a look.
Oh, cool.
That's unscientific again and unofficial. And then I do have a bit
We do not make the decisions.
We do not make any decisions here. It's coming in a second. Here we go. Nice little ad for pro view there. That's well played.
Clicks out of it. Well, he's definitely clicking out, but that looked kind of strange.
Okay.
I think he was far enough inside where it wouldn't matter if he clicked out
in time, because he wouldn't be out in time.
Very far inside, so yeah.
Again, luckily this is not our job. I have a bit of a controversial question, which maybe the people behind the scenes won't be very happy with. You know, we'll see. So basically, my point comes about a comparison between like when you're playing League of Legends and you get in a situation where there is a pause, which most of the time comes because of kind of the game and there's been an issue with Viego or whatnot, I don't know whatnot. If you compare that to, let's say, football, soccer for the American, games, and there's a fault because someone has injured someone because they were trying to make an action that is allowed in the game, you have to wait and then you need to focus again for when the game resumes. Do you feel different in this situation because you kind of know this isn't something that in a perfect world should happen? This isn't like a consequence of like, you know, me doing, I'm just doing what I'm supposed to do, you know, I'm just like playing the game and playing the game. And then you get drawn out of that because there's a pause coming out of another side that then takes 20 minutes. And this is no criticism whatsoever against the system because I think our league officials do a spectacular job in these situations. But you know what I'm seeing? Like the mental, it's harder to keep your mental in those situations. It feels like, to me, Treats?
Yeah, I think it's a bit harder than if it was like a football game or something like this. But I think also every pro knows that these bugs don't happen very often. And when they do, it's kind of just like, oh, that sucks. That's something new. And then they don't really happen anymore. So it's something that, at least for me, I don't get super triggered by it happening. It feels like sometimes it happens, and you just, honestly, the better mental team kind of wins in this situation, so it'll be interesting to see who comes ahead.
Yeah, that's where I want to get at. Like, regardless of if it's in another sport or in this sport being League of Legends, it's all about the mental, right, at the end of the day.
I mean,
I think we're going back into the game, I'm sorry.
Okay, cool.
I'm like, here's this bombshell topic to talk about for like 2 minutes. So League officials have investigated and confirmed that since Hylissang was pathing out of the ultimate and close to the edge, this is an intended interaction. Let's go, guys.
Unlucky Fnatic.
We are going to be dropping in hot and fast into the middle of a gigantic team fight where Nisqy has a realm warp the Fnatic members directly into the faces of Misfits Gaming. Now this is after they found themselves a kill onto Razort and onto Vetheo. And we'll talk a little bit about the ramifications of this in just a moment. As we load up onto the Rift, reminder that Misfits have been picked off one at a time. And after the realm warp has concluded, Hirit will go down to Adam. Upset, Rocket jump forward to find yet another. That is 4 kills from this fight, and this will open up the Baron as well.
It will, but there's short TP timers on some of the members. Vetheo spawning now in 3 seconds and does have that teleport. Razort out on the map as well, but Fnatic, I think they're going to be able to pick up this Baron.
Kobee's got the enchanted crystal arrow. The hawk shot will give some vision. Fires it into the pit, and it's body blocked by Hylissang. That gold lead, that advantage, the control of the game that Misfits had built up has now dwindled.
It's starting to feel a little bit rough for Misfits. I'm not going to lie to you, Trevor. Misfits starts all with Razort walking too far forward. No members of Fnatic in a lane, but they still decide to try and go for some vision. And because of this, Fnatic able to pick up 2 key members, which in turns allow them to start this Baron and then try and turn on Misfits.
Now, despite the opinions of the pauses and the impact it will have on the players, Misfits were making individual mistakes prior to that first Dragon interaction. Multiple members caught out on the side lanes, and I think this realm warp to seal the Baron was fantastic from Nisqy, but I do want to spare a brief thought here for Misfits. They built up an 8,000 gold lead by like 15 minutes. They'd secured 6 towers across the map. There's not very many situations where the map is that wide, that open, and unfortunately they got punished for it. They will be able to pick up an inhibitor, and Gullborg in what could be Misfits' final game of 2021. They now have got a small lifeline to hold on to.
I would definitely hope for that game 5 as well, but Misfits, just in terms of their chances, just in terms of everything, this game needs to go well for them. And they need to slow down a little bit. Now with Baron being over at Fnatic, allow yourself to take that breathing room, allow yourself to push out waves, get vision, and then commit to a play, because if you start over-forcing, Fnatic, they're waiting for you with open arms in their small vision pockets.
Their composition does very, very well into teams that initiate. You see so many tools from the Braum, the Tristana. Viego's going to be able to look for those resets. 3, 3, and 6. Blade of the Rune King completed for Bwipo. He's waiting in the darkness of the Ocean Rift. Now, the outer turret in the mid lane is going to be the focus. 4 members of Misfits are there already, and here it's coming from the base. This Baron-empowered siege is going to be enough to completely equalize the game. And once it times out, 2 dragons apiece, and all of a sudden, Razort chases a little further. The rest of Misfits relatively close by, and they don't overcommit this time round.
Yeah, Misfits, they need to restable the map as well. Their top side is pushing in. Baron is still coming through from the mid lane. So they're trying to get pressure through the super minions here. What will they use this pressure for? Blue buff is up on the top side. They're looking for an arrow.
All right, arrow will tag out Hylissang. The engage comes out. That's a stun onto Razort. Hylissang survives for now, throws out the Glacial Fissure, and the rest of Fnatic back away. Misfits want to create the advantages by starting fights. They've been hunting for a few minutes, and it hasn't paid off just yet.
Upset is on a ward here with Razok around in no vision, but remember that topside wave we just talked about, that needs to get cleared now, or you're going to be losing a lot of cash and experience as Misfits. So because of this, the play starts to slow down a little bit, and we get back into an even game state, I want to say here, for Fnatic pushing out their lanes now as well.
Yeah, I think that goal difference at this stage is relatively negligible. And I think, Gullborg, I want you to take a look at the minimap, and let's talk a little bit about how these teams have set up. Fnatic already pushing some vision forward, setting their sights on that next dragon.
They definitely are. I mean, it's 2 minutes, so what you usually want to do when you have 2 minutes is just create responses from the enemy team. How do you do this? Well, what Adam and Nisqy is doing right now, you push in the side lanes, then you start grouping around, and you make sure that the enemy gets to be busy. And while they're busy, you're doing exactly what Fnatic is doing right now. You're taking control of the map, you're taking control of the entire Drake area.
Look at the darkness that Misfits are playing into. Hylissang and Bwipo will just be spotted out, but Razort steps very far forward. Scuttle Crab is being started off by Bwipo, and
Arrow.
now all of a sudden the arrow is going to be dashed away from. The waves have been relatively handled. Hirit's the only member of Misfits of the TP for now, and Misfits on the counter vision engage. Oh man, you can feel the tension here, Gulborg. Fnatic are using these additional Ocean Rift bushes very, very well, darting in and out of vision, once again sneaking into the jungle of Misfits. But Hirit may just avoid them for now, unless there's a very hard engage, and there is the hop away to safety. No further pressure.
They're doing it so well. At the same time, Trevor, that vision or the pink ward in the blue buff bush, they're just playing around that so well. They're not overstepping. They're not showing themselves. They know exactly what vision looks like from Misfit's point of view without having a ward in there.
This is the 2021 version of the Fnatic Death Bush. Any long-time viewers will remember that call. Fnatic have been able to just find and punish Misfits over and over again. 39 seconds until this dragon is up. Still a number of wards for Fnatic up. I'm trying to see if there's anything behind this tri-bush for now. And it does look like just behind the blue buff, there's a couple of TP wards available. Adam and Nisqy have their teleports available. Adam very, very close to level 16. And Gulborg, we're setting ourselves up for a big fight around this dragon.
Yeah, we definitely are, but the area is also taking control of Misfits now. They're pushing in the mid lane, they're pushing in the bottom side of the map, and therefore they get to control the pace of this Drake. But Fnatic, they're also threading a potential Baron.
20 seconds until the Baron is alive. Hirit needs to charge that Gnar bar up. And then we've got a 5 versus 5 in the middle lane. I'm looking at the minimap for now. It looks like those waves in the bottom lane might just be pushing in favor of Misfits. Vetheo and Razort will be able to secure this dragon underneath the noses of Fnatic. That puts them one away from the Ocean Soul. And it will give them a momentary, point towards the discussion of leading the game.
This also gives you a little insight into the thought process of Fnatic. They don't want to start an all-out team fight unless it's on their own terms, unless they're the first of the objective and they get to play around the fog of war. Because if they're not able to do that, they'll probably just lose, and that's the thought process they're having.
Of course, the risk of losing that fight on a dragon that is ultimately inconsequential also has to play on their minds. Do you start that fight? Once again, Fnatic stepping into the darkness, playing around vision, trying to create an environment where they surprise Misfits. And this time around, Razort does not overstep, but every time he moves towards Fnatic's jungle, I hold my breath.
He looked at that bush and he said, not again. He knew exactly what was going on there. And now they're still clearing out the waves. They're still waiting for the response of Fnatic, because right now no member of Fnatic is actually showing themselves on the map. So Misfits, when this happens, they're starting to take a step back and wait for the response to come through. As soon as that happens, then they start clearing out the river.
Misfits need to battle their own mindset and feelings this game after having such a gigantic lead and after having a very difficult 15 minutes of play, both on a team level making mistakes and then through some technical challenges. If they win this game, they still have another one to play. We're in for potentially a very long night. The Fnatic want to avoid that. Fnatic want to surprise Misfits, secure either Baron or shut them down in the big team fights. And this entire series has been defined by team fights and skirmishes, Gulborg. And you can see once again, both teams just looking and fishing and hunting for those scenarios.
Oh, but they're so careful as well, because Hilly there, you could have for sure forced a flash, you could have for sure tried to go for a play, but they don't have the further vision. They don't want to risk anything that's unnecessary, and that goes back to what you talked about, Trevor. It is very tense.
Yeah, it really, really is. Razort once again steps all the way forward. The Hawk shot reveal multiple members of Fnatic. Nisqy and Adam below the mid lane. Blast Cone used to commit even further. Ashe arrow onto Hylissang, and he will not die just yet. Throws out the Glacial Fissure and escapes with his life, but the flash is blown. Now the rest of Misfits backing away. Adam and Nisqy still trapped in that middle lane, dealing with the minion wave. And Misfits, are they really going to commit to this Baron, Gulborg?
It's warded. Fnatic has the information now. Warded's getting clear out, so it's a dark area, but Fnatic, they have the TPs, and it's getting channeled.
All right, Baron is going very low. Fnatic have to step into the darkness. Baron below 3,500. What do Misfits do? Focus it down or turn for the fight. Vander's got the Encore available to him. Viego's inside the pit, but it's picked up by Vetheo. Misfits managed to get the Baron and turn their attention onto Adam. Encore goes goes up, but honestly doesn't do a whole lot. Adam is melting the back line. Vander flashes and stays alive, while Kobee focuses down Bwipo. So far, it's a 1 for 2 in favor of Misfits, and they get the Baron. Razort hops over the wall. Adam dashes forward. Golden does so much to take down Razort before he loses his life. 2 for 3, but Baron to Misfits.
And that is the most crucial part as well. Now they get to make a do-over of the mistakes they just had.
Well, Vetheo, sorry, correction, Hirit, he's got himself the flash if he needs it. Vetheo killed the Baron. I'm not sure if there's it with an auto command attack. We need to see how close that came, because Misfits almost conceded that Baron to Bwipo.
Yeah, almost there. So Bwipo coming in here, and then he smites in it. No, it's actually... Wait, both smites are down. I'm actually not sure who did what, but in the end, you're completely right, Trevor. The Oriana did pick up that fight, or at least the Baron, and then when the fight breaks out, it's actually looking a bit dire from the side of Misfits. I think if Bwipo gets in there, gets a reset onto Vander, that could have been a different situation with the healing he could have gotten of Seraphine. But afterwards, it is just Misfits taking over.
Crucial that Kobee was not under a lot of threat until the end of that fight. He got off so many autos and was able to focus down the targets. It was a chaotic engage from Fnatic. And I think it was the command attack with a dissonance from Vetheo that picks up the Baron. It gives them, once again, that significant gold lead. It gives them the ability to play on the side lanes, and with 30 seconds until the Ocean Drake is up, that is the soul that they can play for as well. Misfits have the ability to close this game out.
Definitely. Now it's time to correct your past mistakes. You can see Fnatic, they're all up towards the top side of the map because they tried to find a pick on someone who is isolated. Misfits not making the same mistake twice, grouping down 4 members down the middle, having Hirit push in the bottom.
Now, do Misfits stick around? Nisqy still got his teleport, level 18. Will be able to take out this top inhibitor turret. The rest of Misfits pushing into the bottom lane, and Vetheo will be a little bit late to this as Bwipo stepping forward onto him. Hirit now will try to challenge Nisqy in the top lane. I'm looking for any potential engages. 2 inhibitors secured in favor of Misfits, but it is traded for the top in favor of Fnatic.
That's still fine though, because the only lane you're missing right now from Misfit is that top side, so you can group around it anyway. The super minions won't be the biggest problem, and a huge part here for Misfit as well. Your exit objective is the Ocean Soul.
Ocean Soul, 2 lanes of super minions, 5,000 gold lead, and once again momentum in your favor. Misfits cannot make big mistakes though, because with an exposed base, with the fact those supers are going to push in the top lane towards Misfits, if a team fight goes awry, they can still lose this game. So we're still balancing on a knife's edge despite Misfits just edging it out for the moment.
Yeah, definitely, but the problem is the extended healing you get from Misfits. You have Vander on the Seraphine, but you also have the Ocean Soul now, so if you don't get that pick where you blow up a guy immediately, the healing that's going to come through from Misfits is going to be absolutely immense. So now they're grouping down the middle lane, they're having Hirit push in the top side of the map, and they're trying to put the finishing touches to the game, Trevor.
All right, the Baron and Empowered minions have timed out, so Misfits going to be able to try and focus this top turret. Upset is pushing out the bottom wave of supers to buy as much time as possible for the base defense. Looking at flashes, nothing for Vander, Kobee, Vetheo, Razort. That could be problematic as Upset has his available, but to be fair, on the side of Fnatic, only Upset has his, and he's not even with the team right now. Misfit's gonna knock on the door, set their sights on this 3rd inhibitor. Teleport's coming out. That's to the bottom lane. Nisqy, as well as Upset, are going to try to push this one. It's a 5 versus 3 in the base. The Realm Wolf is going to push the minions into the Nexus turrets. Nisqy and Upset are now being focused. They find themselves a kill. All of a sudden, Fnatic turn their attention to the 2nd Nexus top. They've got no more minions to work with. Misfits in the bottom lane are now focusing down the remaining members of Fnatic. The dash forward from Bwipo. All of a sudden, here it's forced away. No minions mean the buff towers are going to be so difficult to deal with. Kobee and Razort on the Nexus turrets. Well, Hylissang is trying to slow them down, trying to stop them. Vander's been able to rejoin Hirit. That's a hop forward from Upset. The cleanse, the exhaust comes out, and Kobee focuses down the Nexus. Fnatic tried to take Misfits down, but we're going to game 5.
And that was such a creative way to try and do it as well. TPing in with